What's up, everyone? Let me start by saying I hope you've had a great start to 2019 and it's looking like a year of possibilities for you. The other is, if you haven't been watching me on Twitch, please by all means check me out. The link will be in the description below. And without further ado, let's start the video. So this is Foxhole, a persistent online war game where you team up with players to win a war between the Colonials and the Wardens. What you're about to see is some combat footage taken from the Battle of the Outstretch on Orebreaker Island. Now, the Colonial forces had been pushed back to their main base here at Camp Posteris, and through a course of roughly 12 hours of fighting managed to push the Wardens all the way to the Outstretch. Our main goal so far is to keep the Blueberries locked up in their base, while smaller squads take the islands needed for the larger war effort on the mainland. As of 1500 hours, we had pushed the Blueberries back to this choking point within their territory and immediately became bogged down by the defenses that were there. Among them were the heavily fortified walls and sunken pillboxes. This push took some time, but eventually became a green wave that would push the Blueberries back to their HQ. In order to support the advance, engineers began construction on howitzer emplacements near our forward base, some 50 or so meters away from our current position. This unfortunately took some time to do, and we began to lose men at high rates. We lost a lot of good men in the first few minutes of the advance, and we had lots of supplies strewn about the battlefield as well. Some guys felt that we needed to recover these supplies in order to put them to better use, so they began to collect them. This is why you see a pool of weapons and other supplies near the road. That wall was an issue for sure, and many of those Blueberries were using it as cover. On the other hand, the foxholes were tough as nails to get past, but those gun nests were 3 times as worse. I ended up being taken out trying to destroy one. Little did I know that there was a warden inside the one I was shooting at. I made it back to the front, but the Wardens began to bring up reinforcements and building materials to strengthen their defenses. Some Wardens felt the need to act cowardly and use trucks as weapons. This would give their engineers time to rebuild, though, and supply their counterattacks. But the Wardens who decided to do this lacked any skill to fight, so they ran over men and sacrificed themselves to compensate this. This became a common tactic throughout the battle. The Wardens would use trucks and motorcycles to slow our advance at any cost, even if it meant sacrificing logistical vehicles. By 1530 hours, the Wardens had brought up mortar teams and began to rain death down on us. Our artillery had yet to begin to open fire as soldier supplies and weapons began to take priority over artillery shells. I had a few close calls with mortars, as you can see, and even a few others as well. Some were not as lucky, though. We began to take fire from the small beach on the left of the wall. We suppressed them as well as we could, but they had effective cover and were able to return more intense suppressive fire. One of those Wardens was a really good shot, as you can see. Finally, at 1630 hours, we began to receive artillery support, and it was effective. This gave us the momentum we needed to get past the choke point. Unfortunately, the Wardens had defenses in place, and were sending waves of infantry towards us with motorized support. We slowly pushed, making sure to clear the pillboxes and foxholes that were freshly built. Our artillery began to shell the weakened positions in the lines of the Wardens, and the rest was left to the infantry. We eventually heard that we would be getting a few armored cars to help us push, but they wouldn't be ready until after sunset. So the infantry had to press on for now, relying on the spotters of our artillery. I myself grabbed a heavy machine gun and began to lay down fire to support our riflemen. What happens next was an amazing event.
Oh, I see a half track. I see a half track. Get back into the Howie. I'm bringing an RPG over.
As it just so happened, our boys came across a half-track that was rearming and proceeded to assault its crew. We were able to destroy it with a well-placed RPG shot. After neutralizing the crew and the half-track, we began to slowly push up and take out the defenses one by one.
Never mind, it's actually
The foxholes and pillboxes quickly fell to our RPGs and artillery. But this did not stop the wardens.
Don't waste it. Don't waste it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to hit it. I went into the foxhole behind.
It's gone. It's gone. Good kill. Good kill. Got 2 more
I
foxholes in
see
front
some
of them.
Oh, a fucking box of ammo just stopped my RPG. What the?
Don't know how good that'll do.
Someone light that crowd up.
There we go, guys. There we go. Foxholes down.
visual of it.
Alright, I'm down left. Watch that left, King. Watch that left side.
There we go.
This is starting to feel like a real push.
They continued to send wave after wave of infantry to push us back, but that was not happening. We had lost so much ground before and nothing was going to stop us. We were not taking a step backwards. This would insult all the fighting we had done before. The sun was beginning to set, and we continued our push closer to the Warden main base, ever more hopeful of the armored car support to come. 17:30 hours. The sun was nearly set. We had not seen or received word of the armored cars. What did end up happening was that they began to counter our artillery and force the infantry to scatter for cover. We still had a lot of clearing to do before we could press on to their main base. I was struck by a Warden carbine and down. Thankfully, a medic was nearby and was able to render aid. My hat goes off to these guys, seriously. Without them, our casualties might have been greater. We began to maneuver farther to the right of the road and trying to clear pillboxes. Resistance was light, but they were crack troops and capable of holding us for a while in place. Still no sign of that support, and our artillery was attempting to counter theirs, so we were left to push up even more slowly.
Yeah, I see. But I think we're going to be pushing back to the we might need to...
There's a Howie built up in front of you.
Yeah.
As we were pushing up on the right, our main priority were the pillboxes. They were keeping us bogged down for too long, and Warden artillery was zeroing in on our position, so they had to go. We took out one that was nearby, and we started to push onto the outer wall of their main base.
That's somebody else firing from it.
Alright, cool.
So I think
Works.
that's got to be covered for now.
Fortunately for me, I got too close to a sunken pillbox, and they are deadly
Hope we
accurate.
run out of shit. It's fun.
As the moon began to rise over Orebreaker, the fighting began to intensify. We had pushed the Wardens back from the choke point to their front door. The only thing we had to do was clear the area of Warden defenses and allow our engineers to secure the Wardens within their own base. Easy enough. Orders came down from High Command, and that was to advance with caution with artillery support. Our engineers started construction of howitzer emplacements in the rear, but we didn't hold our breath that it was going to be done anytime soon. So we stayed put, clearing defenses and obstacles. The only issue here was the enemy had armored cars and half-tracks. We, on the other hand, had still not seen our armored cars as of yet.
Seriously moved up Howie and some other stuff.
Yeah. Don't fire, because
Yeah, you're
you'd
gonna
be
land
firing
on
right now. That's
RPGs
where
fall
infantry.
back to get more ammo. RPGs fall back more ammo.
Alright,
that's
guys.
all I'm doing currently.
Hold what you got. Don't
Yeah, but-
advance. Hold what you got. Don't advance. Now push
fucking
until
took
we
out the
get some more support up here.
Yeah, anybody who's got
Fire fire
HMGs,
is until daytime.
if
Hold
anybody's
what
got
you got.
HMGs, bring them up here. We're gonna hold this position while RPGs go in.
That's how we do it. Is that right?
Hold what you got, guys. Hold what you got.
This how is now used. There's no. Not people without taking
Logistics
by
line running again.
We were being shelled on occasion with little to no casualties as their spotters were not as effective as ours. So I had made the decision to look for their howitzers, but orders came first. I had seen a way in to flank from the front gate, which was obstructed with barbed wire and tank traps. So I went in search of a wrench that would clear the defenses with no issue.
Which fob though?
The one that, the one closest to the front.
Because I know we got like right next to it.
We have 8 rounds left.
Yeah, we need a mad amount of HMG stuff. We need this CD building the fob that's further up so we can spawn closer.
Do we have any mortar support so we can possibly push back a little bit? It's getting a little bit hot here.
Guys, Zod.
Fuck,
Right,
they're fragging us.
Our house is out of range, right?
Okay, we have
Yeah,
RPG
let's
shells and
here.
RPG.
Let's get a mortar together and
Alright,
move on
alright.
along with the infantry.
There's a mortar back at the old base we repaired, so check that.
Yeah.
Should be about 10 there along the 36 shells.
Alright, I already got a mortar too, but just need shells.
They got a pillbox around the corner.
I can't tell. It's really hot to find this stuff. Might be an HMG.
I was really careful as to not get hit. You can see how close those bullets were getting to me.
Might want to run the loop up.
Yeah, how we got it.
Right, let's skip the Howie and get a mortar.
Yeah, I have it too, but I just need shells.
Since the obstacles were cleared and there was a side way in, I decided to carry out my mission and silence the warden guns. Following the outer wall, I eventually found a howitzer being built. I immediately radioed its location, but it was far out of reach for our guns to shoot, and the new ones were not even ready yet. I needed backup fast, so I went back up to the front to look for some volunteers.
Because a gate is being built.
It's already constructed. They finished.
No. It's still being built.
No, it's done. Right here by the
No.
wall.
He's talking about the
I mean-
gate. He's talking about the gate, not the guard.
Oh, the gate. My bad.
Oh shit, that's close.
Alright.
There's nobody.
Guys, I just finished with the howitzer. We gotta check it out.
Where's front?
Further up the wall.
Oh shit, they got a foxhole and a big boom boom.
We had found out that the wardens lazily constructed their defenses and left an opening in their wall with only a single foxhole watching it. This could easily be taken out, but I decided that a different method was needed to silence that gun. I began shooting at the wall with the help of allies we were able to break through.
Shit, I'm out. Back to get more ammo.
As we got through the wall, I was surprised to see a gun nest right behind it. The guys didn't see it coming. I should have known better, but such is war. The wardens actually abandoned this position, and I was needed to push on the right with others. So I relocated to the right flank. There were small hills and rocks on the right. The wardens were cleverly using the hills to shoot down on us and ambush our boys.
I got 300 more.
So
as well.
legit.
I captured.
Holy shit.
just racking up on some HMG ammo.
Hey, Tomato, I have an idea.
Hey, HMG to the left.
As we advanced, we saw an abandoned armored car and decided to capture it. The wall had been destroyed and we began to advance along the side. We found a forward base and this became an immediate target for us.
Not really.
Careful, careful, enemies coming up,
Alright, let's do it.
Hey! Oh! You're behind you.
What's shooting?
Where's the enemy?
Behind.
Oh, I see a four.
Yeah,
Crusader.
really. Yes, it's over here.
Hello.
Power RPG.
I fucked him with a lot.
I need a medic, please.
Aim the four.
Aim at the foe.
Let's just take fire first.
Pick up the mouse,
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Cover me. Suppress them. Goddammit.
One
Of
side.
course we're gonna use it. That already.
Okay, so that's the
That
job.
already.
We've destroyed the enemy FOB.
Over the Americans.
With the forward base taken out, this was one less rally point for the
That's a good
Wardens.
point.
I had no ammo and was beginning to scavenge for it. I eventually found an HMG and some ammo, and looked for a point that I could lay down suppressive fire.
Rifle a bit over.
No, it doesn't allow me to do that.
Unfortunately, I was having a difficult time scaling the rocks on that hill to get to the top. The Wardens can climb. Go wall.
You're gonna want to.
I wasn't aware of the Warden on the hill and was taken out by him eventually, but we were able to prevent them from taking back an APC. Good job, guys. Good job. Good job. Good job. One less APC to use.
Use the march. Get behind us. Use the march.
I eventually rejoined the offensive and continued the advance. I came across a damaged Warden armored car just sitting there and attacked the crewman outside. I was able to get him and my comrades were able to destroy the car with no problems.
Very good.
Also, enemy Howie. We want to bring Howie shells.
Let's check it out.
Easy does it.
Hopefully it'll be daytime by then.
Foxhole is up there, guys.
We fucking closed the rack. Let's just keep going. This is just beautiful.
I mean, that's what happens when you use our
And just bang. Fucking shot him at the point.
Foxhole up there.
Oh yeah, I was thinking I'll be with our that NPC I stole didn't last long.
We continued on until I had gotten the word that we had entered the area around the palm. We had made it. I After 12 plus hours, we made it to the outskirts of the Warden HQ on Orebreaker.